Okay, so today I'm going to show how I created this watercolour abstract painting. I've done quite a few paintings like this over the years, and the principle is always the same. It's a repeating shape with layering. So for example, this one here uses repeating arrows, and this one here uses a slightly more complex wave-like shape. Okay, so if you want to do something similar, you could use the same oval shapes that I'm using in the demonstration, or you could use different shapes and different colours and just follow along and use the same principles. Okay, so let's get started. I've got my Archer's cold pressed fine grain paper, and I've got 2 glasses of clean water, and I'm using these aqua drops by Schmink. I think I've pronounced that right. These are liquid watercolours, and I've got a medium-sized round brush and a ceramic mixing palette. You don't have to use liquid watercolour for this painting. You could use watercolours from pans or tubes, or you could just use acrylic mixed with a lot of water. So the colours I'm going to use are mainly blue with a more greeny blue and a more purple blue, and what I'll do is I'll just test out some of the colours on a scrap piece of paper, so that's what I'm doing here. I did try out this really bright green, but I think what I'll do is I'll mix that with the blue because I want my colours to be quite close to each other so that they're neighbouring colours on the colour wheel, which will give a nice harmony to this colour scheme. So before I carry on, I just want to quickly talk about the transparencies of watercolour and liquid watercolours. So watercolours can have different levels of transparency, and the information is always included on the information sheets. So if you take my Schmink ink blue liquid watercolour, you can see that there is a box to the right of the stars. And if you look down to the key, you can see that that box means that they have full transparency. This kind of painting would probably work fine if you had paintings that were semi-transparent too, but I do think it's something to consider when choosing your colours. Okay, let's get back to the demonstration. Okay, so I've laid my first shape down, and I'm using quite a lot of water because I want the first shapes I put down to be very light in colour. Now watercolours always dry lighter than they look when they're wet. I have used quite a lot of water because if you use a lot of water, then when the paint dries you get this nice sort of line around the edge of the shape, and it also helps to ensure that the paint dries more evenly. Okay, that's the second one down. Now I haven't drawn the outline of these ovals, I'm just putting them roughly where I think they should be. Now I'm going for this kind of oval shape, but as I said before in the introduction, with this kind of painting you can use any kind of shape really, a square, a triangle, a circle, an arrow. There's so many possibilities. Okay, so I'll just turn the music up a little bit while I lay the rest of these ovals down. Okay, so the shapes are dry now, and as you can see they have dried quite a bit lighter than when they were wet. And I've just changed my water because it's really important to always keep clean water so that you get really pure colours. Now it's time to put my second layer of shapes on, and I think I'll actually make some bigger ones at the top and the bottom, so that's what I'm doing here. Now when you're laying colour over colour, it's important not to scrub too hard or to go over it too much because you don't want to disturb the colour underneath. So I'm just drawing the shape in, filling it in, and then leaving it. Okay, so I've done a more purple shape at the bottom, and I'm going to put a more green one at the top here. And again, I'll just put the music up for a bit while I do this. Okay, so I thought this was dry, and I put another shape in the middle, and it actually wasn't quite dry, and some of the colour bled into the shape below. It's not a huge issue, as I'm going to be covering it up, and actually sometimes these kinds of little imperfections can make the painting more interesting. But for this next round of shapes, I am really going to make sure that it's dry, and if you touch it then you can tell. If it's cold, it's probably not dry yet, so that's what I was doing there. And now I'm certain it's dry, so I'm putting another oval on top there, this time quite a pure blue, and I'll put a more greeny blue below this one. Okay, so what I did at this point is I started to move the paper around. I was wondering whether I could change the orientation of the painting, and that can happen when you're doing these kinds of abstract paintings. Sometimes you discover that the painting looks better on its side or upside down. Actually, in this case, I decided that I liked the orientation that it was. Okay, on goes another shape, and I'm making this one more of a purpley blue. Now, in terms of my colour selection, I know that I want to use these colours that are close together on the colour wheel, but I'm just making up exactly which colours I use as I go along. I just know with this composition that I want the darker colours to be in the middle, but there's so many different possibilities, and for example with the triangle one that I talked about at the beginning, the darker tones were more densely packed towards the bottom. But for this one, it just feels right to put these darker tones in the middle. It's sort of drawing the eye into the middle. Okay, so this painting is getting to the point where it's going to be finished soon, and I'm just going to put the music up while I do that. Okay, so this painting is finished now. I really hope that you've enjoyed this demonstration and that you've got something from it. If you decide to try a similar painting out, then I would love to hear about it in the comments. And if you like the video, then please hit like. And if you want to see similar videos in the future, then please subscribe to my channel. It makes a huge difference. Okay, thank you, bye.